for it. Go ahead, yes.
I was just, when people keep talking about, their stereotypes being, or like their assumptions being thwarted, like by their experiences, realizing, for instance, that Germans don't just drink beer and stuff, and that people are more varied than they realize. I think that it's not just that people are more varied, but they're more complicated than we realize. I think that part of the reason that you dip into a culture for more than a week is that you can really, you have the surface impressions when you see people in a crowd walking by, but you also have these impressions when you begin to get to really know people. And so, someone might just be, you might see like a passionate Italian character, but you might see that in some situations they might, for instance, have to become stoic. So I think that that's been the value of staying abroad longer, or going back to like Florence, is being able to see how complicated humans are. So people always say that they're essentially the same, which I think simplifies humans a little bit, or that we have a simplified image of certain cultures. And that makes sense because, you only have a few pictures you can show, or you have so many cultures to know. But I think that's why you study abroad, is to see how complicated each culture is.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Genevieve. Actually, two questions. First of all, I was wondering, so you did, it's also kind of like an internship at this House of Love. What was the course for your 4 months? I mean, was it just doing the internship, or did you have other academic classes? And then kind of separate question is, for the girls that were in the House of Love, especially was in their teenage years, do you know how much of an issue it was that they would fall prey to the red light district, or how much of a risk that was in their future? Those two questions.
Well, the application process for getting into the House of Love is kind of complex in itself, and so as far as the girls go, they would be taken care of and looked after until they were formed a stable sort of life for themselves, and they're all of them intended to continue on to the university. So I don't know what's become of them yet. And then as far as courses go, we had a human rights course that met a couple of times a week, and then I did an independent study on memoirs, and we also took a Thai language course.
Other questions or comments? Yeah.
This is more of comment / question. Along the lines we've been talking about, a couple of you have mentioned just privilege of the opportunity to study abroad and education privilege and all sorts of privilege. And my question is, have you, aside from acknowledging the fact that you do have this privilege of studying abroad and having an education, and many times having privilege in many different ways, have you done something actively as far as to take it a step further and saying, I acknowledge that I have this privilege, but I want to do something actively about it as far as taking responsibility? And then the other comment is a lot of the things that a lot of you have mentioned in struggling and studying abroad, and also thinking about the other things. I also heard a lot of people saying, Americans, and I feel like that's sometimes a big part of privilege, because we go and we study abroad, and when we talk about America, we're talking about the United States, but we say America. And it's really difficult, because you may be studying abroad with a person from South America or Central America, and they're Americans too. So I just thought that even though we do recognize the privilege, sometimes we also forget to see the other kind of privilege as saying American, and that's a big thing, especially in other countries. People think, the United States is the United States, but we feel like America is the United States, where America is Central America, South America, and North America. So I just was curious to know if you thought about that a little further.
Would it help for the people back to have me try to rephrase the questions? If I can and if I'm inaccurate, let me know. But the first question was essentially about privilege. Once you recognize privilege, having been overseas or what have you, what now are you going to do in terms of responsibility with that privilege? Are you going to move forward on acting on that, right? And the second question was, if you refer to yourself as Americans or coming from America, to what extent are you perhaps aware that is not recognizing Central and South America in the way you represent yourself? Is that a fair sort of summary of those questions? Responses to either of those questions? Go ahead, Kathleen.
I suppose my trip wasn't a service trip, it was just to study art history.
Can you speak just a little bit louder? Thank you.
It was my program wasn't a service trip, it was only to study art history and studio art, so it made it, I grew a lot as a person. But I guess acknowledging my privilege was when I came back, I did an independent study making art to kind of acknowledge the experience that I had, and by sharing that, I suppose that could be a way that I furthered the acknowledgement of the privilege of studying abroad and of my experience.
Genevieve.
Well, actually, after working in the orphanage, it really helped me to decide what I wanted to do, I guess, like, in the future. I hold the position of our service learning office now, and we've done things to organize, like, aid packages to send to different countries. We've done things like Kids Against Hunger and things like that. And it really sparked, like, I've always been very actively involved in, like, service learning, but it really sparked a deeper interest in me.
I guess, like, I always think I'm a college student, I'm broke, I don't have any money. What can I really do for other people? And after I got back from South Africa, I had a lot of questions, and I was really confused about what my role in the world was and what I could do and what I could contribute. And I went to Nicaragua and did some service work there for a little while after I got back from South Africa. And that experience really helped me sort out a lot of the questions I had, because I could actually see my South African experience in Nicaragua through my contributions to people, and just saying, I guess now I have a whole new philosophy on service learning and what I can give, and just, I may not be at a point in my life where I can donate a lot of monetary resources, but I can check on that garden and make sure it's doing okay, and making sure that they are starting on the next planting, and I can give leftovers to the guy outside, waiting on the street. And although you may not be able to help everyone, you have to have faith that the other people are going to pull their part too, and that man, he might not be getting the meal from you, but hopefully he's getting it from someone else. And I think you just have to have faith that everyone else is going to do their part too, and that everyone cares about the same thing, and humanity and opportunities and justice. So.